This isn't a matter of history. This is a matter of today. I would invite the gentleman to tour schools in Indian country in any part of this nation, and he'll see schools that today do not meet the constitutional requirements under the current administration of those schools. Mr. Payne has always reminded us that, we don't need a lot of studies to find the poorly performing schools in our districts. We can all drive right to them. And in many instances, they've been poorly performing for year after year after year. The federal government has made a conscientious effort to try to provide directed funding to those schools. That funding is the state people always want to tell us, is only 6% of the money that goes in to education. But somehow it's responsible for all of the failures. It can't be that way. What'd you do with the other 94% of the money at the local level? This is a basic foundational grant of money to those poor students in those poor schools so that they might have a chance of getting some equalization at the opportunity that you get across town. This isn't history. This is what takes place today, every day, as school boards in big mixed districts make decisions about where funds will go. Let's not pretend like everybody who served here on a school board and all those who serve today are non-political entities. And that's just a fact of life. But if there isn't this bulwark against the migration of these funds, they will migrate just like the state funds migrate away from those schools. That's why those schools haven't been improving. Because they bring a whole set of problems and deficiencies and a lack of resources to address them for those students in those schools. This isn't a mystery. We know it's not just money, but in many areas you can't do it without sufficient money. And in many areas of this country you do not have sufficient money for political reasons or for just the nature of the community in terms of any kind of assessed value. But let's not suggest that somehow this is an old-fashioned notion that was constitutionally relevant in 1965, but is not relevant today. It is. And it's this funding that provides some protection against those political decisions and directs the resources to the poorest kids in the poorest schools. And it's not money that comes, other than that restriction, that comes with some kind of a dictate from Washington, D.C. on how you use it in those schools. I remember when the people on the other side of the aisle were suggesting that 90 cents out of every dollar or 95 cents out of every dollar should go directly to the classroom. You're now short-stopping it short of the classroom. You're short-stopping it with a group of people. You say there's some superintendents that are in support of this. I don't know. None of them never asked for this. But people with 2- and 3-year tenures to make a decision about the ongoing effectiveness and the quality of those schools. This federal law is here for a reason. Because when the burden existed, the locals didn't pick up the burden. And in many areas, the locals cannot pick up the burden to provide that equal opportunity. Nobody's guaranteeing success to these students. What we're trying to provide is the opportunity at success, the real opportunity. And yes, that's why there's additional programs beyond this basic grant, this basic block grant to those schools and those students in those schools. That's why there's additional money for literacy. That's why there's additional money to extend the school day. That's why there's additional money for enrichment programs. That's why there's additional money for teacher professionalization. That's why there's additional money for the use of time so that teachers can plan and develop the skills. And that money, you're right, should be used as best can for those districts, decisions made by those districts and those schools. And that's what we all want to do. But the basic grants for Native Americans, for English learners, for poor children in this country, no. No, that should be targeted to those kids in those schools. That's where they spend their school day. That's where they spend their school day. And that's where the obligation meets the road. And this is, in light of the problem, this is what's become a modest effort of the federal government to provide some resources, not required, but to provide some resources to help out those districts that struggle with trying to provide that opportunity at that educational attainment that these children so justly deserve. So let's not relegate Mr. Kilde's amendment to some historical past. Drive through Indian country and you'll see that that's not the case. Drive through poor neighborhoods and you'll see that that's not the case. Drive through migrant neighborhoods and you'll see that that's not the case. That's America today. And that's why this bill is not acceptable in its current form.
Gentleman yields back.